What it do, cuckolds? Somehow, it's once again Friday night already, and that means one thing and one thing only. It's time for the Haters SmackDown Review, Hater Outdoors. Let's get to it. And as usual, we're going to go through it segment by segment. All right, let's get to it. Now, I should preface this by saying that if this SmackDown existed in a vacuum, and if there was a purpose behind any of the matches, it would not be a horrible SmackDown because there was a decent amount of wrestling and because the show just kind of moved fast. The pacing was good. But because nothing that happened today has any bearing on anything at all in the larger scheme of things, this show is a horrible show and therefore gets a 1 out of 10. But as I said, segment by segment. So, 1,000 years go by before Solo Sikoa comes out and says, "Acknowledge me." He is getting no heat. The crowd is dead the entire night, except for a few notable exceptions, which we're going to talk about. But basically, all he does is he accepts Roman Reigns' request to have the match at January 6th, Raw on Netflix. Now, this match might be the main event. If Cody Rhodes does not defend his title in this Raw, and if Cody Rhodes doesn't defend his title in the main event of this Raw, then the signaling that the WWE is giving the fans is that the pepper necklace is more important than the World Heavyweight title and the WWE title. Think about that for a second. Of course, you don't have to think about it much because if you've been here with the Hater for a minute, then you'll know the Hater has already made this point and made this prediction. Nobody gives a rat's ass about Cody Rhodes or his paper championship. The most important championship, quote unquote, in this company is a pepper necklace that Solo Sikoa stole from Roman Reigns. It's almost like the 24/7 title, meaning that anyone can take it at any given time, but for some reason, we have to have tribal combat. I'm not even sure if that's like a singles match or a hardcore match or what it is. I don't care, to be honest. Roman Reigns is obviously going to win. And if he doesn't, then that's good too. That means that you can bet your ass Roman Reigns is going to be gone until the Royal Rumble. So anyways, the storyline makes absolutely no sense. Solo Sikoa agrees to tribal combat. This is in complete contradiction to what he said when Roman first came back, which was that he didn't need to establish that he was the tribal chief because he has the Ula Fala. So if the only way someone can win the Ula Fala is through tribal combat, why did you just say no? You know? Furthermore, what happens if Roman wins? Does that mean that Jacob Fatu, who's basically retarded, is going to just follow the guy who has the pepper necklace? I mean, whatever. I don't really care. I'm thinking too much into it because it's not important. But then all of a sudden, Drew McIntyre comes out. You heard it right. Drew McIntyre comes out, and he basically says that one day he's going to come after Solo, but that day is not today because their goals are aligned. Now, this is really weird because the way that Drew McIntyre delivered this, we'll call it a promo for lack of a better word, the way he delivered the promo would suggest that Solo Sikoa versus Drew McIntyre is like this anticipated match. Nobody wants to see this. If it were up to me, both of these guys would be in the mid-card already. But I don't get what I want usually with wrestling, so here we are. At this point, Jimmy Uso comes out of nowhere, pulls Drew McIntyre from the legs, and starts beating him with a crutch. The crowd doesn't react at all. Nobody gives a fuck about Jimmy Uso at all, right? Jimmy Uso is just like, you may as well just fire him. At this point, it makes more sense to fire Jimmy Uso and, maybe continue Jay's push. Jimmy Uso is not part of the Sami Zayn, Jay Uso, mini faction, you know? He's just Jimmy Uso. He's just there doing nothing. Roman Reigns couldn't be bothered to show up. So Jimmy Uso has to take matters into his own hands. I don't care, and neither did the fans. Now, let's move on. As this is happening, one thing that I did like was that LA Knight came out. He obviously got a reaction, the biggest one of the night. The match just starts out of nowhere as we go into commercial because LA Knight doesn't come alone. All the two other guys, Apollo Crews and Andrade, come out with LA Knight's music with him, right? They just rush the ring and they just go into a match. This I liked because there's no need to have prolonged entrances for everybody. Just start the damn match, right? We come back from commercial. Nothing has happened. Nothing happens during the commercial. Nothing happens during the segment after the commercial. And then we immediately get another commercial. So after we come back from the second commercial break, Nakamura at some point interferes. He does the worst looking Kinshasa. Basically, he just runs and knees LA Knight in the chest. He does like, the Triple H jumping knee. He basically does that instead of a Kinshasa, and LA Knight just jumps over the table as if he got hit by a cannon. It's really stupid. It's really goofy, but basically he screws the team. Meanwhile, Apollo Crews, who I continue to maintain is someone that is underrated, during this whole match, I couldn't help but think, wow, Apollo Crews does everything well. You know what I mean? Like, he went to do a frog splash. It's better than Dominic's rock splash. It's better than all the Uso splashes. He didn't break his leg or toe like Bronson Reed. It's obviously better than, who else does a frog splash? Well, Gunther does a top rope splash. Same thing. It's better than that. So I couldn't help but think, why is it that Gunther is the world champion, but Apollo Crews isn't? You know what I mean? Yes, Gunther's a little bit taller than him, but that's pretty much all he's got that Apollo Crews doesn't have. Apollo Crews looks better in terms of his physique. Apollo Crews is a better wrestler, that goes without saying. And neither of them is very charismatic, so as far as I'm concerned, Apollo Crews missed opportunity. Nevertheless, nobody agrees with me, so what happens is Sol Sikoa tags in Tama Tonga. He drags him to the corner, tags him in, does the running ass of the face on Apollo, picks him up, does the spinning solo, and then does like a Samoan spike to a sitting down Apollo Crews and pins his jobber ass, right? It was what it was. The match was obviously like screwed because Nakamura came in there. So the whole LA Knight going after the bloodline is already gone because now he has to worry about Nakamura again. So, everything that happened last week where it seemed like LA Knight was going to start moving towards a more serious feud, that's all been, the rug has been pulled out from under LA Knight and from under all of us. LA Knight is back to feuding with Nakamura. And that's what you're going to get, and you're going to like it. Basically, after this, we have a backstage segment between Motor City and Byron. Now, I could be wrong, but I thought that Chris Sabin was supposed to be the mentor of Johnny Gargano. Not that it matters, but basically today, it's going to be Gargano versus Alex Shelley in a completely meaningless match. I don't know why this match is happening. The point is, it's like a personal match, and Alex Shelley's going to beat him up. Right? Alex Shelley tells Chris Sabin, I want to go at it alone. Let's see if Johnny Gargano has the balls to come at it alone. At this point, 1 hour has passed, and you're probably thinking to yourself, Hater, how could half the show be gone with only one match? Well, I'll tell you how. Between every segment, there's like 5 minutes of recaps and another 3 minutes of commercials. We saw what happened last week. We saw what happened at Saturday Night Main Event. And then, if they're not talking about those two things, they're talking about shit that happened before. They're talking about shit that's going to happen in the future, like January 6th. And they're also talking about, they had, some press conference. I don't understand the logic behind it because it's not, you have that press conference on January 5th. They had it, 3 weeks before. Apparently, Logan Paul switched to Raw. Who gives a rat's ass, right? Anyways, that's what happens. An hour has passed. Then Braun Strowman comes out with the Grayson Waller effect because they invited him last week. Now, this segment, I think, might be the worst segment of all time. I'm not exaggerating. First of all, Braun Strowman comes out dressed like Santa, which makes us all remember, I'm sure, him being dressed as an elf or him wearing Daisy Dukes or other ways to humiliate himself. Now, I will admit, being dressed as Santa is whatever. The Big Show did that kind of stuff too, and the Big Show is a legend. But the Big Show also had comedic timing. The Big Show is extremely funny, and the Big Show is extremely underrated in terms of his charisma. That's why he had his own sitcom. Cucks, look it up. But basically, Braun Strowman comes out there. Grayson Waller is I don't think there's anybody in the history of wrestling, and there's a few that get close maybe, but there's nobody in the history of wrestling, in my personal opinion, that has less presence than Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller has zero going for him. Zero. I mean, he's a good-looking guy, and that's it, right? He has nothing going for him. This guy is a charisma vacuum. He's talking, and nobody could give a flying fuck. He's trying to make jokes so the fans can boo him, but nobody gives a shit. Meanwhile, Braun Strowman is not interacting with Grayson Waller or Austin Theory, right? He's just there doing his own promo. So, Grayson Waller will say something. why don't you join teams with us? Or why don't we, combine and form a mega team, right? Brain and Braun, whatever. Braun Strowman says, look, I told you guys if you kept talking this way, do you want me to shove this table up your ass? It's like, what are you talking about? Just answer the question. Braun Strowman came there not to be part of this interview. He just came there to say what he normally does, which is, yeah, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to beat you up. It's like, wait, you're not here for that. And also, if you're here for that, why are you dressed like Santa Claus? They didn't say anything to Braun Strowman that would, infuriate a reasonable person. He got angry for no reason. Braun Strowman is just a very, very poorly booked character. But this segment was saved by Carmelo Hayes. I really enjoyed what Carmelo Hayes did. He came out and basically he challenged Braun, right? This was really cool because Carmelo looks like a child compared to Braun, and it's just absurd. It's just silly. It's like Braun Strowman would murder this guy in 3 seconds in real life. But that's why it was cool, because Carmelo Hayes was not backing down. He wasn't being a pussy about it. He made like a cheap heel excuse of, I wasn't ready last week, but he came out dressed to wrestle. He was like, I'm here for a rematch. Braun says, sure. Commercial, match starts. As soon as they get out of the ring, I see where this is going. This is going to be one of those situations where Carmelo wins by count out. That's exactly what happens. Basically, Braun Strowman, because he's retarded, every wrestler that's like really big has to be retarded, because you can't have someone that's big and intelligent, because then there's no way this person would ever lose, right? That's the kind of like the underpinnings, the logic of the big man wrestler. That's why I never considered Kane and Undertaker to be big man wrestlers. A big man wrestler is like Big Show, Braun Strowman, Abyss. It's not even the size. It's just the way they wrestle. Like Umaga, for example, is a big man wrestler. Even though he's 6'3", he's not even that big. He's a big man wrestler because he wrestles like a retard. That's the real distinction. The big men wrestle like they don't understand what's going on. So they're always unaware of the 10 count. They're always running into things. Another big wrestler would be someone like Keith Lee. All this guy did for his entire WWE career was he had 2 moves that were actual moves, and then he just ran into people and ran into things. 90% of a Keith Lee match is just someone jumps and he just bodies them. Then he does the pounce. Then he goes out and he bodies them again. Just like Braun Strowman, he does the whole train thing where he runs around the ring and he just runs into people. This is not entertaining at all. You have to be entertaining to be a good big man. But nevertheless, Braun Strowman is a big man and he wrestles like one, meaning that he wrestles like he's stupid. So what happened is he throws Carmelo into the ring. Carmelo kind of does a little bit of a backflip to get in, but it wasn't anything fancy. The point was that Braun Strowman got screwed out of this match, quote unquote. I don't know why he got screwed, but it was presented like something unfair happened. These are the rules of the sport. You know what I mean? This is just how it works. So Carmelo Hayes wins. Braun is upset for some reason at Carmelo Hayes. This is not a good look, especially considering the size discrepancy. If you see a man the size of Braun Strowman chasing Carmelo Hayes, someone the size of Carmelo Hayes, even if Carmelo Hayes is a bad guy, you still feel bad for him, because it's if Braun Strowman catches this guy, in real life I'm talking about, it's fucking over. You know what I mean? He's going to just murder him right there. But basically, we cut to commercial, and then when we come back, Carmelo is all scared. He runs into Legado del Fantasma, who are just there for some reason, even though 3 months ago or whatever, it was supposed to be their time. Since then, they've had one match that they lost. So this is just embarrassing at this point. I can't believe people even spent $10 to buy cheap tequila for them to even cut this promo. You know what I mean? It's just a complete waste of time. All the money they spent doing that promo was just, you might as well throw it down the drain. But anyways, then Braun Strowman appears, and he asks Santos, he says, where'd he go? Santos says, I'm not a snitch. But Garza says he went that way. So basically, Braun Strowman goes that way, the way that Garza points out, and Carmelo beats him from behind with a chair, which I thought was great, because it doesn't make any sense for Braun Strowman to be mad at Carmelo. What's Carmelo supposed to do? Lose the match on purpose so Braun Strowman isn't upset? It's not normal for someone to lose a match and then want to assault the other guy after the match. This is very, very bad behavior. I don't know why the security wasn't there like they are every time Bronson Reed does something like this. For some reason, when a face wants to beat up a heel for no reason, nobody cares. But when a heel wants to beat up a face for no reason, Adam Pearce or Nick Aldis and 19 members of security come out. I didn't like this, and it made me very happy that, that Carmelo Hayes got his comeuppance, if you will. Now, I'm afraid, maybe they'll do a best out of 7 series, but I'm afraid that this will end with Carmelo Hayes taking a Ricochet type spot and forming a tag team with Braun Strowman. Just like I thought he was going to form a tag team with Andrade. Luckily they moved away from that. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But I don't see Carmelo going anywhere. You know what I mean? He's treated like a joke. He's treated like an afterthought. This guy's an former NXT world champion. So it is what it is. But for what it was decent. You know what I mean? I didn't like the match. Nobody could have possibly liked the match. But I like that Carmelo Hayes got one over on Braun Strowman, because I don't like how Braun Strowman is essentially bullying him. Next, we had the aforementioned Gargano versus Alex Shelley match. It happened. There's nothing to talk about. It was a bad match. Nobody could possibly be entertained by this. The crowd was completely dead. Alex Shelley gets 0 reaction. Gargano gets 0 reaction. And this is especially troubling because the Motor City Machine Guns, they have a theme song that's meant to get the fans into it, right? But nobody cares, so it's not working at all. Anyways, after that, we have the tag team match, main event. It's for the women's tag team titles, but it's kind of weird because obviously Jade Cargill is out. So now it's going to be Bianca and Naomi versus Candice LeRae, I believe, and Nia Jax. To be honest, I think it was Candice LeRae, but I could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really pay attention to this match. So anyways, they have the match. Naomi pins somebody, I forget who. But before the match, Naomi says, I have to earn it. So now we know for a fact that the bad guy is Naomi. You know what I'm saying? Naomi is obviously the person that attacked Jade Cargill. Now, it could be Bayley still. It could also be Charlotte, theoretically. Maybe she came back and did it. That would be kind of weird, That's just dumb. If it's going to be Charlotte, they should have just revealed that it was Charlotte, right? So, it's probably Naomi, She's the one that stands to benefit. I thought it was going to be Bayley because at that time, she was the one that stood to benefit. And quite frankly, if it does end up being Naomi, it's really stupid because she should have attacked her after War Games. But I guess they didn't want Jade Cargill in War Games because there's this perception that she's still green, which is ridiculous. But anyways, that's just how people look at her. So there you have it. That's been SmackDown right there. Now, the overall sentiment that I have with respect to this show pretty much centers around one idea. And that idea is that there's absolutely no way that anyone could have enjoyed this. And also, the fact is that this match, this series of matches, I should say, and the series of segments that we saw are all completely meaningless. In other words, it makes no difference at all why anyone would, there's no reason for any of this to happen, right? The fact that, if you will, what's her face? The fact that, Nia Jax wrestled, for example, doesn't really have any bearing on anything. I don't even think she has a role to play on January 6th, right? It's all centering around January 6th. Everything that happens from now until then is filler nonsense. We might see Roman Reigns, we might see somebody else, but we didn't see Cody and we didn't see Kevin Owens, which is what people wanted to probably see. Now, I understand that I'm pretty sure, this crowd was weird, but I'm pretty sure one of the reasons why we didn't see Cody Rhodes himself is because I believe that the WWE knows that, if they showed him now, he would get booed. You know what I mean? The booing is going to start. And I was personally hoping to see it start today, but it's going to take some time. Now, Monday Night Raw on Netflix, it's still in a couple of weeks. Let's see, what's today? Today is Friday, so it's not this upcoming Monday. It's not next upcoming Monday. It's the Monday after that. So it's basically in 3 weeks. 2.5, 3 weeks, basically. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to wait for 3 weeks for anything to happen in wrestling. I guarantee that absolutely nothing will happen these next 3 weeks. If we just don't watch wrestling for 3 weeks, we're going to miss nothing. We are going to miss nothing. Now, okay, maybe there's some irrelevant shit that might be, considered to be newsworthy might happen. For example, LA Knight could beat Nakamura for the US title, but who cares? You know what I mean? I'm talking about things that have actual impact. Obviously, I don't know when the women's Intercontinental title tournament is going to end. Probably January 6th, if we're being honest, but you understand what I'm getting at here. There's nothing to look forward to until then. January 6th episode of Raw is being treated as a pay-per-view. I don't know if it's 3. I don't know if anybody knows if it's 2 or 3 hours. If one of you does know, please write it in the comments. Because for me, it's I'm not exactly sure what would be better. I'm really excited and really curious to see how Raw on Netflix plays out, you know? Like, are we going to have traditional commercials? Because I pay for Netflix with no ads, you know? I'm not trying to see no ads. So, like, if there's ads, I'm not watching that shit. You know what I'm saying? I am straight up not watching it. So, I'm not going through, like, 47 minutes of ads, you know, to watch fucking Cody Rhodes cut a promo. Absolutely not. I mean, of course I'm going to watch January 6th, but you understand what I'm getting at. And I feel like a lot of people aren't. But anyways, if there's no commercials, that could be really good. If it's 3 hours, I feel like the one on January 6th needs to be 3 hours because, you know, we're promised, like, John Cena. We're hoping for The Rock. Like, you know, we're hoping for big things to happen. I mean, let's be real. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns are not going to cut it, cucks. But we'll see how it goes. I'm sure they're going to hail it as a massive success using Netflix metrics. You know what I mean? All that's going to happen is basically all of the people, like they're going to gather all the views in a 24-hour period so that when people in India and Saudi Arabia see it, right, that's going to count towards the viewership. But everybody knows that for all intents and purposes, in the way that we count viewership today, it's American viewership and maybe Canadian. That's all that matters, right? Like the 8 million people that watched Nitro and Raw, those were all Americans. Back then, people also watched all over the world. But we don't count those numbers. So, you know, they're going to be like 7 million people streamed it, you know, like, and every time the motherfucker buffers, you know, because it's not going to be a good stream, they're going to probably count that as like a new view. You know what I mean? So you're going to hear some outlandish numbers, and like, here's how you know they're going to be fake, right? It's not going to match to anything that's reasonable. You know, 1.3 million people watch Raw now. They're going to be like 8 million watched it. No, they didn't. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely not. Nobody give a flying fuck. That's another thing, you know? Like, they're going to count it like if you clicked on it, even if you clicked on it by accident, you know, that's going to be it. That's going to count as a view up in this mug. So there you have it. Now, with all that being said, the fact is that, you know, when it's time for this episode, it's going to be exciting because we have John Cena, we have a few other people, we have a few other things happening. So, you know, with all that being said, it's like, I mean, I can't hate on it, you know. That's going to be, I mean, obviously I will, but you know what I'm saying. Like, as of now, that's something to look forward to. With that being said, cuckolds, take care of yourselves.